طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا وهدى وتقى ورشادا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم فقهنا في الدين وعلمنا التأويل. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من علم لا ينفع ومن قلب لا يخشع ومن نفس لا تشبع ومن دعوة لا يستجاب لها. نعوذ بك اللهم من هؤلاء الأربعة. أما بعد فحياكم الله جميعا في الدرس الثاني في شرح مختصر النحو المفيد للمبتدئ فيه والمعيد، المؤلف للعبد الضعيف مسعد بن عبد القادر إقبال. نعم، فكنا وقفنا أمس عند تعريفنا بمحتويات الكتاب. Yesterday were about to discuss what order are the topics of this book arranged in accordance with, and what order will we inshallah be progressing with regards to the study of this book. And in addition to that, yesterday I recommended a number of websites or applications to everyone, and there was one that I couldn't recall, and that is Rasaif.com. Rasaif.com, and I'll just spell it for you. Rasaif.com. This Rasaif.com, they have uploaded the best translations, or one of the best translations for a lot of classical Islamic works, like like a Risala of Imam al-Shafi'i. They have uploaded the best translation for it, or a proper translation for it, not an amateur translation, a professional translation for it. So what do you do? And they give you two options. You can search the Arabic text, or you can search the English text. So you know how to use particular Arabic words, how to translate them into English, and how to use them in English. And at the same time, you also get to know how to use the English words in Arabic, or what word is used and how it's used. So it's a very, very beneficial website, Rasaif.com. Now, I just recently got to know about it, and very beneficial. And it also contains some books in some French translations of some books, and maybe there are other languages as well, perhaps. Just before we start, a few questions that I would like to ask you all, and that is, the science of Nahw, the science of an-Nahw deals with what? What does it deal with? What does it study?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
So the science of Nahw deals with how the ending of the words, how words, with the way the words are ended, and the structure of the sentences.
And the structure of the sentence. Okay, mumtaz. So the science of Nahw deals with how particular words end and what the structure of the sentence is. Mumtaz. What does the science of sarf deal with? نعم لحظة نعم. The structure of the word, Mumtaz. What does the science of al-ma'ani deal with? Al-ma'ani.
This is the meaning of the sentence?
The meanings of the sentence, the different meanings that are implied by different styles and different asalib that are used, etc. Mumtaz. And what does the science of al-lugha deal with? Vocabulary. ممتاز. That's it. ممتاز. خلاص. ممتاز. إذا نبدأ الآن. So we know what we are dealing with., remember, structure of the sentence, how particular words end. So first of all, what are we going to do? Inshallah, we are going to first study the word. How many types of words are there in Arabic? So if we know the types of words in Arabic, we know how each type ends in accordance with the context of the sentence. And after having studied this first part of an-Nahw, that is how words end, we will move on to the next part of an-Nahw, that is the structure of the sentence. So once we are done with the words, now then we will be learning how to make sentences. I had a question here that is, it's just like in English, masalan, in English, and a word might be referring to the same thing or same person, but it might take another form. So masalan, if it is a subject, you will say, he came to me. He came to me. That's fine, because he is the one who is applying the verb. He's the one who is acting. But when you are the one who have applied the word on him, you will not say I saw he. You will not say I saw he. You will say I saw him. So you see the change in the word, how it occurred. From he, it became him because of the role that it is playing in the sentence. In the first sentence, it played the role of a subject. So he was he saw me. In the second sentence, I saw him. So he was playing the role of an object, and hence we had to change the he, and we had to turn it into him. Likewise, mathalan, she and her. And with regards to the general, with regards to the proper nouns or even the common nouns, this seldom occurs. Mathalan, if we in English, we don't use it in this way. So if we are naming a person, we will just mention his name. Let us say Ali, brother Ali. Let's say Ali saw me, I saw Ali. So there is no change that proper nouns undergo in English, but in Arabic there is, and so you have to say, if Matalan Zaid is the subject and he's the one who is doing something, applying the verb, then you will say Ja'a Zaidun. And if he is the object and the verb is being applied on him, then you will be saying Ra'aytu Zaidan with the fathatain. So this is the sort of changes that I'm talking about in Nahw, and inshallah we will go into details with regards to it. طيب نقرأ يا أخي أبا بكر إن كنت تريد تقرأ.
نعم.
تفضل.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، فيقول المؤلف حفظه الله، فأقول وبالله التوفيق، إن النحو لغة هو القصد والطريق.
نحو لغة in linguistically نحو because we are studying a science called نحو, so it's nice to study and know why is it called نحو. It's called نحو because it means the way or a pathway on which مثلا someone walks, the direction which you are intending and moving in, that's a نحو. نحى نحوه he took the same direction as someone else. So نحو generally is referring to the direction, to the pathway, something that leads to another thing. Why is it called an-Nahw? So if linguistically it means pathway, it means the direction. So why do we call this science Nahw? Because the Arabs, they took this path. And so when they're speaking their language, they take this path and this is the direction they are moving in. So we also, as non-Arabs or Arabs who are not familiar with their language, we also want to take the same direction as the classical Arabs, as the Arabs who were Fusaha, who were eloquent and who used to speak the classical Fusha, right? So we want to take the same direction as them. So this is the science that we study. This science teaches us the direction and the pathway that the Arabs took when they spoke their language, and that is why it's called an-Nahw. So when they speak their language, they take this path. If it is a subject, they will say Zaidun. If it is an object, they will say Zaidan. If it comes after a preposition, they will say Zaidin. So this is a tariqa, a tradition, a methodology, you can say. That's how the Arabs use these words. And we want to learn how they did it so that we can move in the same direction as them, because it's their language. نعم. واصطلاحا
هو علم يدرس أنواع الكلمة وقواعد إعرابها وأصول صياغة الجملة وبنائها.
واصطلاحا. يعني now we come to the meaning that is يعني in which we use this word an-Nahw. So we use this word Nahw for a science, for an ilm. An ilm يعني for a science that يدرس, that studies. A science that studies. What does it study? It studies two things. أنواع الكلمة وقواعد إعرابها. Types of words. أنواع means types. We all know that. Types of words and the principles of its i'rab. And what is i'rab? I'rab to simply put it, change that occurs with the change in meaning. واضح يا اخوان? This is i'rab. يعني the very change that I mentioned to you in he and him and she and her. This is the sort of change that occurred because the role changed in the sentence. First, there was the object, so we said he. Then it became the first he was the subject, so we said he. Then he became the object, we said him. She, when it's the subject, we say she. If it's the object, we say her. So likewise, in Arabic also there is a change that occurs. So what are the principles of those changes that occur in the words? There must be some particular changes, right? It's not like an infinite number of changes. There must be some sort of يعني particular amount of changes. So usually we only have three types of changes. There are three moods. You call them moods that a word exists in. So it might be in rafa mood, or in nasb mood, or in jar mood. Well, inshallah, we'll discuss all of them. So these are the three types of changes that occur and how they are represented by the word. Sometimes they are represented by a dammatain, by waw, etc. Inshallah, we'll discuss all of this. But what we mean here is that we, in the first part of an-Nahw, we will be learning the types of words and how they change according to the meaning. And in the second part of Nahw, we will be learning how to form sentences. Usul, again, usul means qawaid. Usul means qawaid. Usul means the foundation, the basis, the principles of siyaghat al-jumla. Siyagha means formation of a sentence. Usul siyaghat al-jumla, formation of a sentence, wa bina'iha, and its structure. How to form a sentence and what its structure is. Why is it important? So that you know يعني what sort of information is required in the sentence, right? Is the sentence complete or is it incomplete? Also, مثلا in English, when you have a nominal sentence, in nominal sentences we use helping words. مثلا we say Ahmad is a student. Okay? Now in Arabic we don't need this helping word, that is. So we will say Ahmadu talibun, bas yakfi. So we don't need a helping verb here. Now, how do we know this? This is something that we study in Nahw, that the sentence does not require something that plays the role of a helping verb, that is. See, so these are the sort of things that we'll be studying here. Also, we will be studying how if different different articles are used, how do they affect the sentences? What are the requirements? And then the requirements of the sentence change sometimes. So like in English, if you use the word if, so if I say if you go to the market, and then I don't say anything, is the sentence complete? If I say to you, if you go to the market, is the sentence complete?
No, it's not complete.
It's not complete. Yes, you're waiting. What about it? If I go to the market, what will happen? What about it? What do you want from me? Right? So likewise in Arabic, if you use different articles like something that plays the role of if or some other roles, then we need to learn what are the things that are required. And all of this, inshallah, will be studied in an-Nahw. طيب اقرأ يا أخي. والإعراب هو
تغير أواخر الكلمات لاختلاف العوامل الداخلة عليها، وهذه التغيرات تمثل
تمثل
تمثل تغيرا في معنى الكلام والتزمها العرب في كلامهم.
طيب. Now, when we said that we are first going to study the types of words and the principles that govern how they change, that govern how they are altered, these words, how their endings are altered. So we needed to also define for ourselves what is i'rab. So we defined it here, that i'rab is the change, تغير, change, alteration, تغير of أواخر الكلمات, the endings. أواخر means endings of the words. Why does it change? It changes because لاختلاف العوامل الداخلة عليها, because the syntactical governors, عوامل الداخلة عليها, these عوامل in English we refer to them as syntactical governors. Fancy word. Let's just simplify it. We'll simplify it with the same example that we gave before. He is, مثلا, or let's just say he ate, I saw him. Now, he here was the subject, so it was he, here it is the object because the verb saw is being applied on him, so we are using the word him. So these are the changes that occurred. These changes occurred because of the change in the awamil. What are the awamil? Syntactical governors. Awamil is the gem of amil. Awamil is the gem of amil, and amil refers to anything that is a factor, that is something that influences something, that affects something in some way. Usually we use this word in Arabic a lot of times, awamil, we translate it as factors. What are the factors that cause something? And also we use it in Urdu as well, awamil, awamil of something, yani the causes or the factors that caused it. You see, so that's so you can just, instead of using this fancy word, you can just write it as causes. What are the causes here? Like in English, we said he ate. The cause that we used, or the factor that because of which we use the word in this way, is that it's the subject. Here, what made he into him? This verb saw. This is what made he into him. So it affected the word he, and it caused it to change into him. So likewise in Arabic, مثلا, when we say جاء زيد, when it's the subject, yani the doer, the fa'il, the one who is doing, the one who is applying the fa'il. But so what caused it to have these two dhammatain? This thing that is the verb, that's what caused it to become marfu or have dhammatain. So this is the amil. This is the amil. In another example, we'll take مثلا رأيت زيدا. What caused it to have fathatain? This fi'l, this verb is what caused it to have fathatain, and that's the amil. So when the awamil, they differ, they change, the word changes. The word changes. Likewise, مثلا, you must have read in the Quran a lot of times the ayahs that mention إن الله يا شباب إن الله غفور رحيم أو غفورا رحيما. يا شباب إن الله غفور رحيم. And Allah I mistakenly clicked on. طيب لا بأس لا بأس. While I was writing, I clicked on stop share. طيب سامحوني. طيب, and what about كان الله
غفورا رحيما.
كان الله غفورا رحيما. Okay, and إن الله غفور رحيم. طيب لحظة. إن الله. طيب, now question is, what caused غفورا في كان الله إن الله? غفور غفورا رحيم رحيما. Now, what is the thing that is causing these changes? These are the changes that occurred here. رحيم رحيما, Allah and Allahu. It is these awamil, factors, syntactical governance. These are the awamil we are talking about. This is what caused change in the endings of these words. Okay, so and why do these changes occur, or do they mean something? Yes, they do mean something, because if the change occurs, the meaning changes. The meaning changes. So for example, I'll give you a very example that I made a mistake in my first year of Dar al-Hadith, and I was supposed to give a sort of a small speech, and I had written, of course you have to write it down. I didn't know Arabic at that time, so I wrote it down and brought it to the class. I was supposed to read it to the class. So I wrote down an ayah, and I was reading that ayah, and I wrote it, and I read that ayah, innama. How I read it, I will tell you later on. Innama yakhsha Allah, and I'm not putting the harakah on the word Allah on purpose. Right. إنما يخشى. طيب من يقرأ لنا هذه الآية؟ إنما يخشى الله.
إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء.
علماء, and what's the harakah on the hamza?
من عباده.
This is correct. You put here a fatha. So that's correct. من عباده
العلماء.
العلماء. أحسنت. Why? Because the fa'il. ممتاز. Now, how did I read it? I read it إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء. So what does it do? It makes Allah the fa'il of yakhsha, and yakhsha means fear. And then the ayah would mean that Allah fears the ulama instead of meaning the ulama fear Allah. Now this is how a change in the ending of a word can affect the meaning of the sentence. It reflects on the meaning of the sentence, and so that is why it is important. It is important. And at times it does not reflect any change in the meaning, and it doesn't mean anything. مثلا, for example, if you read Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, if you read it Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen with a kasra, you see, ma'adallah, and if outside of Quran, if you read it like this, then it doesn't represent any change in the meaning. It's just that Arabs never used these, never spoke in this way. This is called lahan. Lahan going against the tradition of the Arabs when you're speaking. And this is something like if a person who's weak in language and he makes the feminine noun masculine noun, and he makes the masculine feminine, then this is something that is not considered as praiseworthy. Right? Rather, it's considered as blameworthy. It's considered something that people despise. They look down upon. They don't like it. A person who is an eloquent speaker, if he makes these sort of he's not supposed to make these sort of mistakes, and this is something that is considered as blameworthy amongst the people who speak that language, right? So likewise, the Arabs, when you make such mistakes, then they might not necessarily mean or represent some change in the meaning, and the meaning becomes opposite of what was meant here, and alhamdu became, instead of all praises is for Allah, it became all dispraises ma'adallah. No, this is not always the case. The one I mentioned here, it's an extreme case. Yeah, not always does it happen. But the second reason why we are so concerned with Nahw is وَالْتَزَمَهَا الْعَرَبُ فِي كَلَامِهِمْ. The Arabs, they adhere to it. الْتَزَمَهَا adhere to these changes. This is how they spoke, and we want to speak like them for a number of reasons. We want to speak like them because it's their language, and any language or anything should be performed in the correct way, in the proper way. That's how things are supposed to be done. Secondly, when it comes to lahan, it is considered something very blameworthy amongst the Arabs, not the contemporary Arabs, the classical Arabs. What happens when you're doing lahan and you're reading some hadith, and you're reading some Quran, and you fall into lahan. Lahan means such mistakes in which you make the fatha, dhamma, kasra, fatha, etc. So now you are attributing this lahan to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or attributing the lahan to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's qabih, it's despicable amongst the Arabs, it's despicable to Allah, it's despicable to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You yourself might not consider lahan to be a big thing because it's something that is common. But to attribute it to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is disrespectful. You see, something that is considered disrespectful in his society, in his time, you're not supposed to attribute it to him, because this is a sort of disrespect to him. And that is why Al-Asma'i, and Al-Asma'i is one of the greatest scholars of the Arabic language. They say that he's like the Imam Malik of Lugha, of the language. So he used to say, أخوف ما أخاف عليكم اللحن. The greatest thing that I fear upon you is that you will fall into lahan a lot when you don't focus on Arabic. Why? Because this will cause you to attribute falsehood to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, attribute something that is blameworthy, and say that these are the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is not nice. That is not nice. So in our times, مثلا, there are some things that are considered as aib, something that is considered as a source of a cause of shame, مثلا. And it might not be something to be ashamed of in other times during the history of mankind. We wouldn't want anyone to attribute it to us, right? So likewise, out of respect for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we must not, when we are reading his words, we must be very careful about them. And when we are reading the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Arabic, we must be very careful about it, lest we attribute some sort of lahan to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is considered as blameworthy and despicable amongst the Arabs. And anyone who speaks Arabic well would find it very difficult to bear with a person who is constantly falling into lahan. Inshallah, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, after you learn an-Nahw and then you go to a khutbah in Arabic and you find the khatib falling into lahan, you will find yourself grieved by it, and you will find yourself not able to bear it. Sometimes it happens, and the students who knew Nahw well, they would sometimes close their eyes out of grief and out of they couldn't tolerate and bear the sort of lahan that the khatib was falling into. So that happens now. طيب إذا اقرأ يا أخي فتظهر أهمية هذا العلم بهذين الأمرين.
فتظهر أهمية هذا العلم بهذين الأمرين. فدراسة هذه القواعد وتطبيقها تمكن الإنسان من إدراك المعنى المراد وإيصاله وتجنيبه المعاني الغير المرادة.
طيب حسبه. فتظهر means becomes apparent. What becomes apparent? أهمية, the importance of this knowledge, of this science, بهذين الأمرين, with these two matters that we mentioned here, because the changes in the words, they represent change in the meaning, and the Arabs adhere to it. So these are two important matters. So these represent, or these show the importance of learning the science. فدراسة هذه القواعد, studying these principles, وتطبيقها, and applying them. تطبيق means application. That is why the applications on Play Store, App Store, they're also called تطبيق. Yeah, تمكن الإنسان, they enable the insan min idrak. What do they enable him? They enable him to comprehend, idrak, comprehend, understand the intended meaning. Al-ma'na al-murad. Murad is from irada, something that you intended. Wa isalihi, it also enables him to deliver what he wants to deliver. Whatever meaning he's thinking of, it enables him to deliver it in the right way. So instead of saying إنما يخشى الله من عباد العلماء, if he says إنما يخشى الله, then he has been unable to deliver the meaning in the right way, because he caused the people to understand something else, not what he intended. وتجنيبه المعاني الغير المرادة. تجنيب means to avoid, and it enables him to avoid the meanings that are unintended. So when you make a mistake in Nahw, sometimes a person will understand something else from your kalam which you did not intend. Now, and then next, what does it do? وتصون, اقرأ.
وتصون كلامه من اللحن وهو مخالفة العرب في سنن كلامهم فيه.
Preserves. تصون, صيانة. Have you heard the word صيانة? صيانة, they usually use it for maintenance. Anyone heard the word صيانة before?
I think you
صيانة.
did it in
Yes.
first class.
صيانة يا صح صيانة العلم صيانة العلم
Amai.
عما يشين صحيح and also يعني they usually use it when it comes to the car maintenance. They say صيانة السيارات. It's not maintenance to be precise. صيانة means protection, preservation of the سيارة. So صيانة is something that happens before the, or maybe it can be used for maintenance as well. It's sometimes they use the word صيانة for fixing the car. That's wrong. It's not fixing. Fixing is تصليح. تصليح means when you are fixing something. صيانة is to protect it from from breaking down. Now, so تصون is from صيانة. It preserves his speech من اللحن. What is لحن? لحن means مخالفة العرب في سنن كلامهم. يعني مخالفة means going against. مخالفة going against. The Arabs in their tradition of their speech, يعني the way they speak, going against it. لحظة. We have some people going offline and online, so I need to just disable the waiting room. طيب. سنن كلامهم فيه الذي يعتبر عيبا لصاحبه. It is considered a source of shame. عيب for the one who is following اللحن. This is not considered something praiseworthy, especially amongst the people who do concern themselves with learning Arabic and mashayikh. You will find them despising اللحن totally. وحطة لمنزلتي. حطة means it brings his rank down. So sometimes you're impressed with the content that someone has to present, but when he speaks in such an uneloquent manner and he's making so many mistakes, then his rank falls in your eyes. طيب. ويسلب الكلام. يسلب means it snatches. يسلب الكلام snatches from the speech its beauty, جماله, وأثره, and its effect على مستمعه, the effect that it has on the one who listens or reads that kalam, it takes that away. So when you find that a person who is مثلا discussing some sort of an ilm and he himself is not good at Arabic, and his speech becomes unimpressive and ineffective because of this. And that is why it's very important to learn an-Nahw. طيب. ننتقل الآن. وبما أننا ندرس an-Nahw. اقرأ.
وبما أن النحو يدرس أحكام
أحكام.
الكلمة.
This is a mistake. أحكام. Sorry. أحكام. جزاك الله خير. These are the mistakes that I need to note down. أحكام الكلمة.
وبما أن النحو يدرس أحكام الكلمة وأحكام الجملة فقد جعل هذا المختصر قسمين. أحدهما يدرس أحكام الكلمة والآخر يدرس أحكام الجملة. وكلا الجزئين يشتمل على أبواب فيها مسائل على النحو الآتي.
طيب هنا يا أخوان we said نحو studies what? It studies the structure of the word, the sentence, and how the words end. طيب. So we have two things here. أحكام الكلمة, rulings related to the words, and rulings pertaining to the sentence. So that's why we made it into two parts. This whole book, or Science of Nahw, we have made it into two parts. One part is for the word, types of words, how they end. One part is for the sentence, structure of the sentence, how it's affected, etc. Okay. So and each of these two sections of the book, كلا الجزئين, these قسمين, two sections, and both of these parts of the book, both of them, they have some chapters in it, and within those chapters are some masail, according to the following order. طيب. And this is important to keep in mind. And this, inshallah, with each, as we progress, we are going to memorize each one of them. So as we progress, we will memorize anwa al-karim. We will memorize the types of words. Then we will memorize the different classifications of ism. Then as we progress, we will memorize the different classifications of fi'l. Then as we progress, we will memorize the different classifications of huruf and likewise. So as we move and we progress, we are going to be memorizing these masail one by one. And that is why it is important to keep up with the classes of Nahw. And we cannot afford to let these classes pile up and تتراكم الدروس عليك and they pile up against you and then you have to listen to them at once. No, this is not how grammar can ever be learned. You have to go class by class. You have to build the content of the next class upon the base that you built in the previous class. And if you break this momentum, then you are going to suffer big time. Now, so what is the tartib of the book? نعم اقرأ يا أخي القسم الأول.
القسم الأول أحكام الكلمة ويشتمل على أبواب.
أحكام الكلمة, as we said, first section will be related to the word, how they end, and then that's why we have few chapters here, few أبواب. What are the أبواب in the first section of the book? أحكام الكلمة, المقدمة.
المقدمة أنواع الكلمة تعريفاتها وعلاماتها.
The types of words, the very primary classification of words. What type of words are there in Arabic? We all know that, inshallah, we study it as well, but just because some of the brothers and sisters who are participating in this, they already know it. So let me ask you this question: how many types of words do we have in Arabic? The very primary classification. Don't want you to go too deep, just the very initial classification.
3.
اسم فاعل وحرف.
اسم فعل حرف. What is ism in English? Just to simplify it.
Noun, is it?
Yeah, noun. Noun. And there are a number of things that come under the heading of ism. We will inshallah discuss them later. In English, we have 8 parts of speech, right? 5 out of them almost, they come under ism. Noun, pronoun, adjective, adverb, interjection, 5 of them almost. Fi'l, what is fi'l in English? Verb, ahsantum, verb. And what's harf in English? Particle or particle. Ahsan. Particle or article?
Articles.
Particles. Articles or particles?
Articles.
Articles. Ahsantum. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. So article. And what comes from the 8 parts of speech in English that we have? What comes under the heading of harf? We have prepositions.
Yes, preposition. Ala, ila.
And also we have, in addition to this, conjunctions. Conjunction and or like this.
Yeah.
But and in ism we have these are the 3 prepositions, verb, conjunctions. The rest of the 5, they all come under ism. Noun, pronoun, adverb, adjective, interjection. طيب. We'll discuss this inshallah. الباب الأول. نعم. والباب الأول إيش هو يا أخي أبا بكر؟
الباب الأول بيان تقسيمات الاسم وفيه مسائل.
طيب. Now after this we will be doing classifications of ism, the different classifications of ism. So ism or anything in the world can be divided in different classifications. We can classify it in different ways depending on the angle and the perspective from which we are looking at it. So مثلا, the people on earth, they can be divided on the basis of their religion. So we have Muslims, Hindus, Christians, etc. According to Islam, we have 2 classes. We have Muslims and Kafirs. A Muslim, Munafiq, and Kafir, right? So looking at their religion, we can divide the people, looking at their color. We can divide the people looking at the area that they live in. We can divide the people looking at the country they belong to. So the different perspectives that you look at something from, you can divide it and classify it in accordance with it or accordingly. Likewise, ikhwan, we are going to look at ism from the different aspects and perspectives that are relevant to us in the science of Nahw. Science of Nahw deals with what? Science of Nahw deals with the endings of the words and the structure of the sentence. So keeping this in mind, we have some aspects from which we are supposed to look at ism. So looking at ism from those aspects that are relevant to us in the science of Nahw. We're not going to mention anything of the classifications that we're going to mention in as-sarf, mathalan, or in balagha مثلا. In sarf we will divide ism in a different manner. We will have different classifications of ism. We will have different classifications of word. But when you come to sarf, when you come to nahw, there are particular things that you are trying to address in this science: the endings of the words and the structure of the sentence. So this is the two aspects that you're looking at this at a particular thing from. And those aspects that are relevant to us and help us in the science of nahw, those are the aspects that from which we are going to look at the ism and classify it into different or use different classifications of ism. طيب, what are those classifications of ism? أخي تفضل. المسألة الأولى.
المسألة الأولى انقسام الاسم إلى مذكر ومؤنث.
What is مذكر and مؤنث?
Masculine, feminine.
Masculine, feminine. Okay, that is something that is relevant to us in nahw, to know whether the noun is masculine or feminine, right? It's relevant to us in nahw. Why is it relevant to us in nahw? Because we must know when to use the ta marbuta, when not to use ta marbuta. We know that feminine nouns usually they have ta marbuta. If they don't have ta marbuta but they're still feminine, we have to use the verb in a particular way for the feminine nouns. We have to, if we are using an adjective, sifa, for the noun, then we have to put a ta marbuta. You know, there's a lot of ahkam, a lot of rulings related to the fact that a noun is feminine or masculine. So that's why it's important to know in nahw this classification of nouns that is masculine and feminine. طيب, ممتاز. المسألة الثانية.
المسألة الثانية انقسام الاسم إلى مفرد ومثنى وجمع.
إلى مفرد ومثنى وجمع. This is a problem with this font, Lotus Shami. This font always puts an alif. So this is a bug with the font. So we will say مثنى وجمع. طيب. Okay, what is mufrad? What is muthanna? What is jam'?
Singular,
Singular, dual, and plural.
plural.
Singular, dual, and plural. طيب. Singular, dual, and plural. طيب. Okay. There is a small request. Perhaps some students have recently joined. The small request is, barakallahu fikum, that the sisters, we would highly prefer that they participate through the chats, inshallah, through the chat. I know it's a little difficult, it's tiring to type all the answers and participate, but it's, we have some, pros and cons, we have some benefits and harms, we have to weigh them, and we find it, inshallah, the best is in terms of saving and preserving ourselves from any sort of fitna, that if teachers would, if the sisters would participate through the chats, that will be the best, inshallah. So sahih, it's going to be a little bit difficult, but inshallah that's the best solution, and that's the best in terms of precautionary measures, inshallah. Bismillah. طيب, مفرد ومثنى وجمع. طيب. Why is it important in nahw to know mufrad, muthanna, and jam'? Because each one of them have a different structure of the word. In muthanna, you have to use alif and noon, or ya or noon. And then again, if they have different signs for when they are subject, object, or they have come after preposition, there are different ways to express how they are affected by their role in the sentence. So that's why it's important in nahw. Likewise, if you are using some sort of an adjective, so you will say جاء المؤمنون, جاء الرجال المؤمنون. So you'll have to use a plural adjective. You see, because you are using it for something that is plural. So a lot of things. What I want to show you here is not teach you adjective, not teach you masculine, feminine noun. What I want to show you here is that this is important to us in nahw to know what is mufrad, what is muthanna, what is jama'. Okay, ممتاز. المسألة الثالثة.
المسألة الثالثة انقسام الاسم إلى معرفة ونكرة وبيان
أقسام.
وبيان أقسام الاسم أقسام الاسم المعرفة.
Okay, we're going to study this. Don't the one who does not know ma'rifah and nakira, doesn't have to worry that, oh, I don't know this, everyone knows it. Labas, we're going to study it. But still, for those who already know it, what is ma'rifah and what is nakira?
Definite and indefinite.
Definite and indefinite nouns. Okay. So what do we do when it's a definite noun? Then the adjective that comes along with it, it's also a definite word. With regards to indefinite noun, the adjective that comes with it is indefinite as well. So there are a lot of ahkam that are related to the determining whether a word is definite or indefinite. Ma'rifa and nakira. Definite noun, like someone who someone who whose identity or whose person is known. So you say مثلا the book. That means I'm talking about a particular book. Al-kitab. So I'm talking about a particular book. كذلك مثلا if I say Zaid or Amr and I'm talking to you and I'm discussing a person named Muhammad, so I'm talking about a particular person. So he's a definite person. And then on the other hand, we have something that is indefinite, like we say in English, an apple. An apple, it can be any apple. I'm not talking about a particular apple. An apple, a person, any person, it can be any person, not a particular person. So that's indefinite. Now, اقرأ. والمسألة الرابعة.
المسألة الرابعة انقسام الاسم إلى معرب ومبني وبيان أقسام الاسم المعرب وعلامات إعرابها.
أحسنت. I have been a little I've fallen short a little bit when it comes to the putting harakat in the index. Inshallah, the rest of the book will find the harakat on all the words. مبني معرب ومبني وبيان أقسام الاسم المعرب وعلامة إعرابه. What is معرب المبني يا شباب؟ معرب related to إعراب. إعراب was change, right? Change in the word. So the words that change with the change in their roles. Their role in the sentence changes. The word also changes. The endings of the word changes. Mabni, it does not change. Does not change, no matter what. We will take, inshallah, we will be studying this and we'll be mentioning examples of this now. المسألة الخامسة.
المسألة الخامسة انقسام الاسم المعرب إلى صحيح الآخر ومعتل الآخر وكيفية إعراب كل منهما.
اسم المعرب, those that change, then we also have to make another classification of them. صحيح الآخر, معتل الآخر. What is, in Arabic, what sort of a fi'l is called صحيح? Or what does صحيح and معتل refer to? Just a general question. If you don't know, it's fine. Those who know, this is for them. What is a fi'l that is صحيح or ism that is صحيح? الآخر. What is صحيح referring to? What is معتل referring to? Free of ya, waw, ya, and alif. ممتاز. صحيح means something that does not have a vowel letter. Does not have vowel letter. And vowel letters in Arabic are called حروف what are they called? حروف العلة. أحسنتم. What is علة in Arabic?
A defect.
Defect, disease, illness. That's علة. Defect, disease, illness. Waw, alif, and ya are considered as defects and illnesses and diseases. So that's why a word that doesn't have it is called sahih. Yani it has sihha, it has good health. And some word that has those defects, it has that illa, it's called mu'tal. In Nahw, what matters to us with regards to the words is their endings. And that's why we're not mentioning sahih in absolute sense, we are mentioning sahihul akhir. All that concerns us in Nahw is the ending of the word, whether that is sahih or not. Yani does it have a vowel or not? And mu'tal al-akhir, again, the endings of the words. طيب. وكيفية إعراب كل منهم. I'll just give you one example of this. مثلا صحيح is like Zaid. Sahih is like Zaid. It has a dal at the end. This is sahih. This is not a vowel. And mu'tal is like Musa, which has an alif at the end, and this is a vowel. طيب. So these are the examples, sahih and mu'tal. And we'll come to it, inshallah, each one of them. طيب. الباب الثاني.
الباب الثاني تقسيمات الأفعال وفيه مسائل. المسألة الأولى انقسام الفعل إلى ماض ومضارع وأمر.
طيب تقسيمات الفعل. Just like ism, we are going to look at the fi'l from different angles which are relevant to us in the science of Nahw. And we are going to make some classifications of fi'l. What are those classifications? There are madi, mudari, and amr. First classification, madi, mudari, and amr. Who knows what is madi, mudari, and amr? What is madi, mudari, and amr? Past tense, mumtaz, madi, past, present, future, present tense, and future tense. Not future tense, sorry. Madi, mudari', not future. Amr is not future tense. Imperative tense, mumtaz. Imperative, commands related to some sort of a command. That's how we have it in Arabic. So we have madi, which refers to the past tense, mudari', present, and future. So if you just use the word sawfa, it will be used for future, the same word. And amr is an imperative. Yani command. Drink water, sit down, stand up, etc. Okay, this is amr, imperative tense. ممتاز. طيب المسألة الثانية إعراب الفعل.
المسألة الثانية إعراب الفعل المضارع الصحيح الآخر والمعتل الآخر والأفعال الخمسة وبيان حالي بنائه.
أحسنت. يعني also when it comes to the أفعال, and because we are concerned with how the words end in Nahw, we're also going to look how the أفعال end. So if the fi'l is ending with a sahih letter, what are the sort of changes it undergoes? If it is ending with a mu'tal letter, that is harf illa, then we have to see what sort of changes it undergoes, and that's what we're going to study in this مسألة. المسألة الثالثة.
المسألة الثالثة بناء الفعل للمعلوم فاعله ولما لم يسمى فاعله.
بناء الفعل للمعلوم. You must have heard of الفعل المعلوم الفعل المجهول, or الفعل المبني للمعلوم الفعل المبني للمجهول. Anyone who has had some background of Arabic grammar must have heard these words. In English, how would you put الفعل المبني للمعلوم for those who have studied grammar once? You must have heard in English of active voice and passive voice. I opened the door was opened. I opened the door. This is when the subject, the one who did it, was known. The door was opened. This is passive voice. If you have learned this in English, this is what exactly it is. If you haven't learned it in English nor in Arabic, ما في مشكلة. نقرأ وإن شاء الله ندرس ونتعلم. الباب الثالث.
الباب الثالث أنواع الحروف هي 9 أنواع مبسوطة في موضعها.
Different types of حروف, and we will be discussing each of them inshallah when we come to it. طيب القسم الثاني أحكام الكلام.
القسم الثاني أحكام الكلام ويشتمل على أبواب. المقدمة. الباب الأول الجملة الاسمية وفيه مسائل. المسألة الأولى كيفية تحديد الجملة الاسمية وبيان أركانها.
طيب. When it comes to the أحكام الكلام or أحكام الجملة, now this is the second section of the book in which we will be discussing the jumla, the structure of the sentence, etc. So we have two main types of jumla in Arabic. The one is jumla ismiya. What is jumla ismiya in English, ya shabab? In English is called nominal sentence. And we inshallah study what it is. And then we have the other type of jumla, that is the jumla al-fi'liya, that is called verbal sentence. Sentence that does not contain any word is nominal sentence. Usually sentences that contain verbs, they're called verbal sentences. الجملة الاسمية أحسنت يا بارك الله فيك. verbal sentence. المسألة الأولى كيفية تحديد الجملة الاسمية وبيان أركانها. How to know and determine whether a jumla is jumla ismiya. This is what you will be learning in the first مسألة. كيفية, how to, يعني methodology. كيفية means the method. تحديد, determining, knowing. Sorry for the bad handwriting. المسألة الثانية انقسام الخبر إلى مفرد وغير مفرد. Now once we have learned جملة اسمية, we will know there's something in جملة اسمية called خبر, and then we will learn خبر is of two types, مفرد and غير مفرد. And then غير مفرد is also of two types, and that is جملة and شبه جملة. We'll inshallah be doing that when the time comes. المسألة الثالثة النواسخ المبتدأ والخبري. Nawasikh means something that removes and eliminates, eradicates, abrogates, cancels the mubtada and khabar. Nawasikh, jam'u nasikh. And nasikh is something that cancels. So it cancels mubtada and khabar, subject and predicate, and it brings something else. That is ism kana, and we'll inshallah discuss it when the time comes. طيب. اقرأ يا أخي بارك الله فيكم. الباب الثاني جملة الفعلية وفيه مسائل.
الباب الثاني جملة الفعلية وفيه مسائل. المسألة الأولى كيفية تحديد الجملة الفعلية وبيان أركانها.
نعم.
المسألة الثانية نواصب الأفعال. المسألة الثالثة جوازم الأفعال.
أوكي. المسألة الأولى كيفية تحديد الجملة. How to know it's a verbal sentence. بيان أركانها. What are the essential components of that جملة. أركان الجملة يعني the essential parts, essential components of جملة فعلية, without which a جملة فعلية is incomplete. المسألة الثانية we'll discuss نواصب الأفعال, any things that change the فعل into another mood, and also then we will discuss in المسألة الثالثة جوازم الأفعال that change the فعل into the جزم mood. نعم. الباب الثالث.
الباب الثالث مكملات الجملة من
أحسنت الله المستعان. من المرفوعات والمنصوبات والمجرورات. So this is a very big mistake. من المنصوبات والمجرورات والتوابع. خلاص يكفي.
من المنصوبات والمجرورات والتوابع. المسألة الأولى مكملات الجملة من المنصوبات. المسألة الثانية مكملات الجملة من المجرورات. المسألة الثالثة المكملات المشتركة بين المرفوعات والمنصوبات والمجرورات التوابع.
Okay, ممتاز. So this wow should be removed from here. Another one of the mistakes that we have pointed out. Alhamdulillah. This wow is supposed to be removed. So مكملات الجملة, things that complete the sentence. You know, there are some parts of sentences that do not form the essential components of a sentence, but they are used in sentences. They play some role. So what are those things? What are those words? What are those articles? You know, that are used like adverbs, adjectives, etc. All of this stuff. And this bab will be very important because this requires a lot of focus. Usually by the time we reach this bab, people tend to lose their focus in Nahw. So, you know, they do the Jumla Ismiya Fi'liya very well, mashallah, I'rab, they do it well. When it comes to these Mukammilat, when they lose the determination, they lose the focus, that's where everything, you know, is lost, because a lot of information here is thrown at you at once, and there is very less practice with it. So usually this is the bab that you need to focus on a lot. Focus on this a lot. الباب الثالث إن شاء الله when the time comes. طيب. وأخيرا ملحق, we have an additional chapter in the book that is بيان طريقة الإعراب. There is something that is called إعراب in Arabic, and that is I don't know if brother Norman is here. نعم. أخي نعمان. What do we call إعراب in when we teach grammar in Urdu? What do they call it إعراب? And when you describe its فاعل مرفوع علامة رفعه الضمة, what do they call it? I don't think brother is mentioned here. المهم, يعني this is a sort of description of the role a word is playing in sentence. تركيب. Yeah, they usually call it تركيب. أحسنت. They call it تركيب. Yeah. So it's like explaining the role of a word in a sentence. So مثلا, if it was a particular فعل, okay. So I will ask you to أعرب هذه الكلمة. I will say, do the إعراب of this word. So what are you supposed to do when I ask you this question? What am I asking you about? So what I'm asking you about is particular bits of information about that فعل, about that word. So you will tell me مثلا فعل مضارع, it's a فعل that is مضارع. Then you will tell me it's إعراب, it's مرفوع. Then you tell me why is it مرفوع وعلامة رفعه كذا كذا كذا. So you're going to give me a bit of a profile of that word. This is called i'rab. Now people get confused when they're told أعرب الجملة هذه or أعرب الكلمة هذه. They don't know what they are being asked about or what is the information that they are supposed to tell when they're asked this question. So this is why we have this special bab in our book, that is بيان طريقة الإعراب, and we will mention in this the steps of i'rab, the steps that you're supposed to follow when you're supposed to do the i'rab of any word that you're asked to do the i'rab of. And this bab is one of the most beneficial things. يعني I learned from my مشايخ النحو. I was one of my مشايخ محمد طيب. محمد طيب, his name was محمد طيب. He ما شاء الله تبارك الله يعني because he is very proficient in نحو. He used to give us fawaid from very advanced books, and he used to give us the summary of those fawaid. And this is one of the things, these steps, I learned it from him. And then we also learned it. There's a book by Sheikh Sulaiman al-Uyuni. Yesterday I mentioned to you Sheikh Sulaiman al-Uyuni, one of the best contemporary scholars of Nahu. He also has a book called Al-Muwatta fil I'rab. Al-Muwatta fil I'rab, in which he expounds on how how we're supposed to explain the i'rab and describe these words. What are the steps that we're supposed to follow. نعم. طيب إن شاء الله نقف هنا بإذن الله تعالى في الدرس القادم نبدأ بالكلمة الثلاثة أنواع اسم وفعل وحرف. It is highly recommended that before we have the next class, every time before we have a class, that the students go through a couple of pages, 3-4 pages of the book, try to understand what it's saying, so that you have some sort of a picture of what you will be learning on that day. Nahu, ya ikhwan, it's not like Aqidah. Aqidah was easy in the sense that a lot of information you already had, and it's something that is relatable. Nahu is something totally new, and you have to build it in your head from scratch. So we need a lot of focus and determination with regards to النحو. وفقكم الله جميعا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. من كان عنده سؤال فليسأل. The one who wants to ask a question, they can ask.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام. مرحبا ورحمة الله.
Sheikhna, just quickly, can you please remind us the last second last thing we discussed, mukammilatul jumla. What does that refer to again?
Mukammilat are those I didn't intentionally go into too many details in order to not confuse, but that's a good question, because there are a lot of things that you can relate with when it comes to English. مثلا, see things like adverbs and adjectives. Yeah, mukammilat means something that completes the sentence in the sense that it gives additional meanings. You can say additives to the sentence. Mukammilat, you can call them additives. Things, if you add, they would give a more detailed meaning, but if you don't add them, the sentence is fine. So مثلا, if I say I saw a man, sentence is fine, it's complete. But if I say I saw a tall man, now it gives an additional meaning here. Tall, that's an adjective. This is what it is. This is what mukammilat are referring to. So we have a lot of different mukammilat, like adjectives, adverbs, hal. You have something that is called mustathna. Mustathna is when you make an exception. Illa. When you use the word illa, then how you're supposed to to put the word after illa. Are you supposed to put a fatha on it, or dhamma, kasra, etc.? We also have مثلا in mukammilat. There is a lot of stuff. There's like tamyiz, something that is called tamyiz. Tamyiz is مثلا that's used after numbers, like after 11, 12, 13, 14, and until 99. Like if you want to say I have 99 mobile phones, so you will say عندي 99 هاتفا. هاتفا. You will use it in a particular way. So these are the stuff. Also مثلا there is something in Arabic that is called mudaf and mudaf ilayh, when you attribute something to another, in the sense like it is like in English, when we use these possessive nouns or possessive words, I don't know, when you use that apostrophe s, مثلا Ali's phone or Ali's pen. So you say in Arabic, you will say قلم علي. Now مضاف إليه is also يعني considered from the مكملات of the جملة. نعم. So these are the sort of stuff. This is the sort of stuff that inshallah we'll be doing in مكملات. نعم.
بارك الله فيك.
فيكم بارك الله. طيب إذا نقف هنا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.